my most amazing artist. I hope you are having an awesome day today, and welcome to a brand new project. As you can see, this project is all about clay because I have some clay in front of me here and I have a bunch of other fun things. We are going to be learning how to create a coil pot. So it's a pot created from coils. If you haven't already and you're doing this at home, you need to go and look for the video called, I think it's called Clay Forms for Kids, and we learned about coils, spheres, and slabs. So those are the three things that you need to know before working on your clay, because you can make anything out of a sphere, out of a coil, and out of a slab. So we're going to focus mainly on coils for this project, and I have some things in front of me here. I have a piece of canvas to work on so I don't get clay on my table. I have some water over here in case my clay gets dry. I can just add a little bit of water and smooth out any cracks that might happen. I have some slip here, which is a combination of clay and water mixed together, and this is like our glue. If we want to attach clay pieces together, we have to do something called slipping and scoring, and that is basically just scratching the surface of the piece you want to attach and scratching both of those surfaces and gluing them together with this slip. And to do this slipping and scoring, or scratching and gluing, we're going to use this dirty old toothbrush. This is not for brushing your teeth, this is for slipping and scoring when using clay. So keep it in your slip here, and we will use that a little bit later. If you're in my face-to-face classes, you're going to get a cup about this size. If you're at home doing this, you can use a lid of some sort. We just want it to be circular because we are going to be cutting out a circle for the base of our pot. And I have some other tools here. I have paper plates and I have a popsicle stick. This is great for cutting pieces of clay, and a skewer if I want to draw any details a little bit later. So the first thing before I start working with my clay is I want to flip my plate over and I want to write my name. This is going to be very, very helpful as we start creating these coil pots because they're going to look very similar at first, and we want to make sure we know whose is who. So write your name on the back of your plate and then we can start working with our clay. And I'm going to set the plate off to the side for a second because this clay likes to stick to paper plates, so we're going to keep our clay on our canvas until we are done. And I am going to roll my sleeves up because clay can be pretty messy sometimes. And what I want to do is I just want to grab a little section, and with this smaller section we are going to create a slab. So I want to make sure that my clay isn't dry, and if it does feel a little bit dry, I'm just going to dip my fingers in the water. Do not dip the entire piece of clay in the water because then you will make it way too wet. Just use your fingers and add a little bit of water at a time. When it's squishy and easy to work with, then it's ready, okay? So to make a slab, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first roll this into a sphere best as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to start using this part of my hand, and I'm going to start hitting it on my clay. And I'm gonna go around to make sure that it's an even thickness. You don't want some areas to be very thin and some to be very thick. You want it to be even all the way around. And I am going to keep on doing this until it's the size of my cup. And I'm almost there. I just need to do it a little bit more. And remember, I'm not hitting the same area too many times because if you go over the same spot too many times, it's going to be very, very thin in that area and very thick in another area. But I think that looks about good. And I'm going to place my cup on top, and I'll take my skewer on the pointy end and I will trace around this cup all the way around. And after I've traced it, I'm going to have a little bit of extra clay, and we can use that later. And I will take off the cup, and I'm actually done with this now because this is going to be the base of my coil pot. So I'll set that off to the side for a second. I don't want it to dry out though, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water and just smooth out those edges. If you leave any sharp corners on your clay piece, then whenever we fire it in the kiln, those sharp corners are going to be very, very sharp when they come out, and they actually might hurt you. So it's always a good idea to use a little bit of water every now and again and just smooth out your clay. Don't use too much water because then it makes the clay a little bit hard to work with. It makes it a little bit too squishy. And we don't want that. Just a little bit of water will go a long way. So now I'm gonna start making a coil. And to do that, I'm just gonna grab a little bit of clay at a time. And then I'm going to make a sphere. And after I make somewhat of a sphere, I am going to start rolling it in between my hands, and once it gets a little bit too long, I'll start rolling it on my canvas. And to do a coil, I like to start in the center of my coil, and as I'm rolling it, my hands are moving outwards, and that is creating a longer coil. Just adding a bit more water because I noticed my clay is getting dry. And the thing about coils is that we want it to be an even thickness, especially for this project. So what I mean by that is we don't want some parts of our coils to be very wide and then others to be very thin. We want it to stay even and consistent all the way throughout that coil. Sometimes my coils like to start to flatten out, but we want it to stay rounded. So I'm just gonna keep rolling in any flat areas. I'll just pat it with my hand to try to round it out a bit. All right, this is getting a bit too long, so I know I don't really need that much. So I'm just gonna use my popsicle stick and cut off a bit of the ends there. And I'm just gonna continue rolling out this coil until it's long enough to go around my circle here. And it looks like that's long enough, and I actually have a lot extra, so I'll just use my popsicle stick, cut off the extra, and this coil is perfect. But I can't just attach it like that because we have to do slipping and scoring, and that is where this toothbrush comes in. So right around the perimeter of this circle is where I'm going to place this coil. So I am going to just scratch around the edge of this circle, and I'll scratch on my coil. And by doing this, these two pieces are going to stick together. If you don't do this part, then whenever we fire these in the kiln, these pieces will just fall apart. So it's very, very important to always slip and score. I will use my fingers to blend these two coils together. The popsicle stick is also great because you can blend pieces together a lot easier. That's usually how I like to blend my pieces of clay together. And I'm going to take my popsicle stick now, and I'm going to take it and blend this coil down into the center of my pot, right onto that circular base we cut out a minute ago. Okay, so I need to make another coil because we need to do about 5 coils high. So this is just one coil, so I have about 4 more to go. So let me go ahead and make another coil, and then I will be right back to show you the next step. All right, this coil is ready, so whenever I'm ready to add another coil, I am going to scratch the surface where I want to attach the coil. You need to be able to see those scratch marks. And then I'll scratch my coil all the way across, and then I will attach it. I want to make sure that the beginning and the end of my coil are nice and blended together. I'm going to take my popsicle stick and just blend those two together. I will also take my popsicle stick and very carefully blend the 2 coils inside of my pot. To do this, I'm just taking one end of my popsicle stick and dragging a little bit of clay down from the top coil onto the bottom one. Welding is when you blend 2 pieces of clay together. It is welding them together, and it's very unlikely that they will come apart when we fire them in the kiln. So there is 2 coils done. You can see my pot is starting to get a little bit taller, and like I said earlier, we need to have 5 of these coils. Here's my base. We need to have 5 coils on top of the base. So I have 1, 2, which means I need 3 more. After I make a coil and it goes all the way around, what do we need to do before we attach it to our pot? Yes, we need to score and slip it. And after you attach your coil onto your pot, you're going to take your popsicle stick and blend those together on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and make 3 more coils and attach them using slipping and scoring, and then I'll be right back to show you the next step. finished adding all 5 of my coils, and I'm going to double check that I have 5. Remember, the first layer is our base, so we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coils on top. And I'm going to take a second and I'm just going to smooth out the top because we want this to be nice and smooth. Remember, if we have any sharp edges, those are going to be extra sharp after we fire it in the kiln. So just go around, add a little bit of water here and there to really smooth it out and make it look nice. Now you have a choice for the outside of your pot. You could blend your coils together like we did on the outside, or you can leave it like this so that we can see the coils. I think I'm going to leave mine, but feel free to take your popsicle stick and just blend those coils together if you want to. And now, after we have our pot done pretty much, we can add some decorative elements, like if you want to make a slab and cut out a shape like a heart or a star and add it to the side. Just remember, anything that you attach to this, you have to slip and score it first. That means scratch it and scratch whatever you want to attach and attach it, because that is how clay sticks together. Okay, so I want to add some spirals to the top, so I'm just going to make some coils. From a coil, we can make a spiral just by creating a coil and then spiraling it in towards the center. And then I want to attach this to the top of my pot. So I'm gonna scratch the bottom of whatever I want to attach, scratch wherever I want it to be attached, and then stick it on there. You might have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to stay. And if your pot is very wet right now, then it's not going to be stable enough to hold any objects up here. Oh, see, mine wanted to fall off because it's too wet right now. But as I sit here, I'm going to blend these two together. I'm going to blend the bottom of this spiral to the top coil here and try to help secure it a little bit, weld it together. Remember, when you blend two pieces of clay, it is called welding. By the way, I almost forgot, while I was building my pot up with all these coils, as I was blending on the inside, I was taking my other hand and kind of cupping it and supporting it on the other side, just very gently, because it needs a little bit of support as you are blending these pieces together. So keep that in mind while you're blending. If your sides are either caving in or falling outwards, just use your hand and cup it in place while you blend your pieces together. Okay, so I'm going to finish adding spirals all the way around the top of my coil pot, and then I will be right back to show you what it looks like. I just finished adding all the spirals to the top of my coil pot, and it's pretty heavy now, and it is very fragile, so we have to be very careful with our clay project at this point in time because this clay is still very wet. But the last thing I want to do before I say I'm done is I'm just going to take a little bit of water and smooth out any rough edges. But as it sits out, it will dry out and it'll be ready to go in the kiln. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun creating this coil pot today. Don't forget that you can add other details that you want to as well. This is just how I want mine to look, but maybe you want to add some shapes to the side of your coil pots. Maybe you want to blend your coils together. I decided to leave mine unblended, but that is totally up to you. I can't wait to see how your final coil pots turn out. I know they're going to be amazing because you guys are amazing. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.